He fired me with a smile on his face. 5 minutes, one lie, no appeal. My boss said my performance failed, but I had his voice on my phone saying the opposite. Every threat, every setup, every plan to remove me quietly. He thought he had buried me, but he had no idea what was coming just ahead. You are watching Betrayal Story Central. Let's step into the story. I remember the exact sound the pen made when it touched the paper. A soft click, sharp enough to echo in the quiet office, sharp enough to make my chest tighten. My boss, Darian Pike, leaned back in his chair with a cold expression. He did not look at me. He glanced at the HR representative beside him, then pushed a folder across the table. "Alden," he said, "your employment with us ends today." My heart dropped. No explanation, no warning, just a simple sentence meant to collapse everything I had worked for. I stared at him, waiting for a reason, a hint, anything. "What did I do wrong?" I asked. Darian opened the folder with calm fingers. He handed me a termination letter printed on thick paper. His face stayed blank, not angry, not apologetic, just blank, the kind of expression someone wears when they have already rehearsed every line. "You know why," he said quietly. I did not, but I knew him, and that scared me more. The HR representative, Ms. Wren, shifted uncomfortably. She avoided my eyes. Her hands stayed folded in her lap, tight and controlled. That told me something was off. I opened the folder. Inside were several printed pages with my name on the top right corner. Performance warnings I had never seen, complaints I never heard about, missed deadlines I never missed, signatures that looked like mine but did not match my hand. My throat tightened. "These are not real," I said. "I never signed any of this." Darian leaned forward slowly. He laced his fingers together and gave me a small, tired smile, a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Alden, this is not the time to deny things," he said. "The company cannot tolerate misconduct." Misconduct. I felt the word land like a heavy weight on my chest. For a moment I could not breathe. I had worked at the company for 3 years. I arrived early. I stayed late when needed. I handled some of the hardest technical tasks without complaint. I never caused trouble. Yet here I was being dismissed like a problem they were relieved to get rid of. I looked at the pages again. Same layout, same tone, same strange spacing, all fabricated. "Who wrote these?" I asked quietly. Darian stopped smiling. He leaned back again and wiped imaginary dust from his sleeve. "You already know," he said. A cold shiver ran down my arms. I searched his face for a clue, a smirk, a twitch. The truth settled in my bones faster than logic. He did this. He planned it. I lifted my eyes and stared at him. He stared back with steady confidence. "I want to appeal this," I said. "I want a full review." Ms. Wren cleared her throat. She looked at me with a mix of pity and fear. "The decision has been finalized," she said softly. "Your access will be disabled today." My stomach tightened. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. Darian closed the folder and stood. "We can walk you to your desk," he said. "You have 10 minutes to collect your things." His voice held no emotion, no humanity. I gathered the papers and stood slowly. When he opened the door, he turned slightly and said, almost in a whisper, "This is what happens when you forget your place, Alden." My hands trembled, but I kept my voice steady. "I did not forget anything," I said, "and this is not the end." His confident expression faltered for half a second, just enough for me to know one thing. He feared something. He feared what I might do next. As I left the room, one thought kept repeating in my mind. He had no idea what I recorded. I did not always look at Darian Pike and feel what I felt that day. When I first met him, I thought I was lucky. He was the type of manager people tried to impress. Tall, polished, sharp. He spoke in clear sentences and always looked like he had already solved the problem before anyone else saw it. On my first week at the firm, he called me into his office and asked about my background. "Alden, right?" he said, glancing at my resume. "You coded that logistics tool at your last job?" "Yes," I said. "It started as a side project." He nodded slowly. "Ambitious," he said. "We need that here." I walked out of that meeting feeling seen. For the first time in a long time, I felt like someone in authority noticed my work instead of just my job title. I stayed late that entire week, not because anyone asked, but because I wanted to prove he was right about me. He rewarded that effort at first. He praised my work in team meetings. He forwarded my solutions to upper management. During one quarterly review, he said, "Alden is one of the strongest assets we have." I remember those words clearly. They carved themselves into my mind. The change began after one particular project, a high-risk client implementation with a tight timeline that everyone thought might fail. Darian put my name on it. I led a small team. We worked late nights and early mornings. There were mistakes, but we fixed them. In the end, the project went live smoothly. The client sent a thank you email directly to the director and mentioned my name. That was the moment I noticed something shift. The next week, Darian looked distant. He stopped dropping by my desk. He began speaking to me only in formal tones. In the next meeting, he mentioned the project as a success, but said it was a collective effort and never mentioned my name. I brushed it off. I told myself he was just busy. Then he began correcting me in meetings. Small things at first. If I said a timeline was 4 weeks, he would interrupt and say, "Actually, it is 3." If I shared a solution, he would counter with his own and push mine aside. The team noticed. Some exchanged quick glances. No one said anything. I tried to make sense of it. Had I offended him somehow? Was I too confident in front of seniors? I replayed conversations in my head at night, trying to find the moment where I crossed some invisible line. One evening, I stayed back late to finish a deployment. The office was quiet. Only a few lights stayed on. As I walked past the pantry, I heard voices inside. I recognized Darian's voice first. "He is getting too confident," he said. "If I do not check him now, he will think he can bypass me." A second voice responded, one of my coworkers. I never found out which. "He works hard," the coworker said. "He just wants to grow." Darian gave a short laugh. "Everyone wants to grow," he said. "Not everyone knows their place." I stood there frozen. I felt like the walls had moved. The manager I respected had just labeled me as a problem to control. That night, I went home with a tight chest and a heavy mind. The signs multiplied after that. He started assigning me tasks with impossible timelines. When I raised concerns, he asked in front of others if I was struggling with the pace. He moved meetings without telling me, then pointed out that I arrived late. He sent emails that sounded supportive, but placed all blame on me if anything went wrong. I went from strong asset to unreliable in a few weeks. At least that was the story he began to write. The first written warning came out of nowhere. He called me into his office, slid a document across the table and said, "This is to keep things on record. Just sign it." I read it. It claimed I had missed multiple deadlines. It mentioned conversations we never had. It stated I had been spoken to several times about my performance. None of it was true. "I cannot sign this," I said. His jaw tightened. "It is standard procedure," he replied. "If you refuse, it will go straight to HR." I held the paper and felt something old wake up inside me. The same feeling I had as a teenager when adults believed someone else's version of me instead of mine. I looked at him and understood something clearly. He was not coaching me. He was building a file against me. I did not sign it. I walked out, scanned the document at my desk, and saved a copy to my personal drive. From that day, I changed how I moved. I stopped trusting verbal instructions. I requested follow-up emails. I started documenting my tasks. I downloaded calendar invitations and stored them. I turned on a recording app during certain meetings, not to trap anyone, but to protect myself from being rewritten. I still wanted to believe things would settle, that he would return to the manager who once praised my work. I kept giving him chances in my mind. But deep down, I knew the truth. He had already decided I was a threat, and the next move he made would not just stain my record, it would aim to erase me completely. That was when I promised myself one thing. If he tried to bury me with lies, I would let the truth speak for itself. I just needed to survive long enough to show it. The first warning shook me, but the second one told me everything I needed to know. It arrived early on a Tuesday morning. I remember the light in the office that day. Pale, cold, the kind of light that makes every surface look harder than it should. I logged into my computer, opened my inbox, and saw an email with the subject line, Performance Alert. I clicked it. My stomach tightened. The message claimed I failed to deliver a module that was never assigned to me. It said I ignored instructions. It said my attitude had become difficult. I took a deep breath and slowly, hoping I imagined the words. I had not. My hands felt warm. My face felt cold. I walked to Darian's office. His door was slightly open. He was sipping coffee, scrolling through his phone. He looked up with a small, irritated smile. "Yes, Alden?" he said. "I received a second warning," I said. "This is not true," he shrugged. "It is on record. I was never given that assignment." Another shrug. "Are you sure?" The question cut deeper than the accusation. He knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted me to doubt myself. I kept my voice steady. "I want the task list," I said. "I want the timestamps." His smile tightened. "You seem stressed," he said. "Maybe take a few days to clear your head." Clear my head. That was the phrase people used when they wanted you silent. I walked out of his office feeling like the floor had tilted. For a moment, I stood there staring at my screen, trying to breathe. I felt something heavy press against my chest. Then I reminded myself of something simple. The truth does not fear sunlight. So I opened my archive. Every email, every task sheet, every message. I confirmed what I already knew. No such assignment existed. That was the moment I decided to protect myself fully. I created a private folder on my cloud drive. I titled it Journal. Inside, I stored every document, every screenshot, every suspicious message. I logged each conversation. I saved call recordings. I tagged everything by date. I was not planning to attack anyone. I was planning to survive. Days passed. Weeks blurred. The office began to feel like a quiet battlefield. People smiled, but their eyes shifted quickly. I knew they sensed something happening. Darian had that effect on people. His presence made everyone cautious. Then came the third warning. It happened after a product meeting. I had presented a clean update. The team liked it. No one complained. But that afternoon, Darian sent a message. "Alden, please come to my office." I entered and saw a sheet on the table. Another warning. This one said I had been uncooperative during the meeting. "I did not do anything wrong," I said. Darian tapped the paper lightly. "This behavior concerns us," he said. "We need team players." "I am a team player." "You are becoming defensive," he said. A part of me wanted to shout. A part of me wanted to walk out. But I stayed calm. "I want to speak to HR," I said. His expression changed. Subtle. Quick. His jaw tensed. "That will make things worse," he said. I understood the message behind the words. Back down. Stay quiet. Accept the story he was writing. But silence had already cost me too much. "Noted," I said. I took the warning. I scanned it the moment I returned to my desk. I added it to my folder. I stared at my screen for a long moment, then clicked open my audio recorder. From then on, every meeting with him became a log entry. Every request he made became a documented trail. Every shift in tone became a digital record, not to use against him, to protect the truth. People assume that the worst part of workplace manipulation is the lies. It is not. The worst part is the slow erosion of your confidence, the way your reality becomes shaky, the way someone else's version of events starts to overshadow your own. I refuse to let that happen again. One Thursday afternoon, something confirmed my fear. A coworker approached my desk quietly. Her name was Alora. She glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "Alden," she whispered, "I think he is trying to get you out." I felt the words settle in my stomach. "What did you see?" I asked. She pressed her lips together and whispered, "He asked me to forward him your old files. He said you were becoming a risk." A risk. That was the word he used. I thanked her and watched her walk away. My pulse felt heavy in my wrists. Right then, I understood one thing clearly. The warnings were not random. They were steps in a plan to remove me, a plan that he believed I was too quiet to fight. But I was not the same person he met on my first week. I opened my folder. I checked every log. I organized everything by date. If he wanted a battle, he had already forgotten one detail. I had proof. And proof only becomes powerful when the right moment arrives. That moment was closer than he knew. The morning everything fell apart did not begin with warning. It felt normal at first. I woke up early, ironed my shirt, and left my apartment with the quiet hope that the week would end without new problems. I needed a break from the tension. I needed one calm day. When I arrived at the office, the parking lot looked the same as it always did. Gray cars, white lines, a few early risers walking in with coffee cups. Nothing unusual. The sun had just started to rise, painting soft light across the glass windows. I walked to the entrance, pulled out my access card, and tapped it on the scanner. It blinked red. I tried again. Red. A cold feeling slipped down my spine. For a second, I convinced myself it was a system glitch. Maybe the scanner malfunctioned. Maybe the server was down. Maybe anything except what I feared. I stepped aside and waited until another employee approached. Her name was Mara. She tapped her card. The light turned green instantly. She pulled the door open and looked back at me. "Alden, your card acting up again?" she asked. I forced a small smile. "Seems like it." "Try HR," she said. "Sometimes they reset credentials overnight." She walked in and the door closed behind her. I tried my card one more time. The scanner blinked red a final time and beeped softly. Something inside me tightened. This was not an accident. I called the IT help desk. A young technician named Ellis answered. "Access issue," I explained. He typed for a moment, then paused. "Your credentials were suspended at 2:14 a.m., he said. My breath caught. Suspended by who? He hesitated. Request came from management. Automatic lock after a termination flag. Termination. The word hit me like a blow. I stood still for a moment, letting the cold morning air wrap around me. Something had happened. Something planned. Something final. "Thank you, Ellis," I said quietly. I walked around the building to the side entrance where visitors checked in. The receptionist looked startled when she saw me. "Alden, are you all right?" she asked. "Is Darian in?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. He is expecting you." Expecting me. That confirmed everything. I sat down in the waiting area. My hands rested on my knees. A deep, heavy calm settled over me. The kind of calm that arrives only when you stop hoping for fairness and start preparing for truth. After a few minutes, Ms. Wren from HR stepped out of the hallway and gestured to me. "Alden, please come with me." Her voice was low, controlled, nervous. I followed her to a conference room. Inside, Darian stood by the window with his arms folded. He did not greet me. He turned slowly. "Alden," he said, "we need to discuss some serious issues." He sat down and slid a stack of printed pages toward me. More fabricated reports, more signatures that looked like mine, more narratives that painted me as reckless, careless, irresponsible. The pile looked thick, too thick. I studied his face. No anger, no shame, only confidence. He believed this was the end. He believed his version of events would stand without question. "Your behavior," he said, "has become a liability." "A liability," I repeated. "You altered critical files last night." "I was not even logged in," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "That is not what our records show." For a few seconds, the room felt silent, cold, empty. Then he spoke again. "Your employment is terminated effective today." I kept my eyes on him. I let his words fill the room. Then I said quietly, "I recorded everything." The moment the sentence left my mouth, the change in him was instant. His jaw clenched. His eyes twitched. His fingers tightened around the papers. He had not expected that. "What recordings?" he asked. My voice stayed calm. "Every meeting, every instruction, every warning." His confidence flickered like a weak light. "That is against policy," he said. "So is falsifying evidence." Ms. Wren inhaled sharply. She looked between us, her expression moving from confusion to fear. She had clearly sensed something was wrong but never imagined this. I reached into my bag and placed a small drive on the table. "Everything is on here," I said. "Every contradiction, every timestamp." No one spoke, not even Darian. For the first time since all this began, he looked uncertain. As they sat stunned, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from the director. It said only one sentence. "Alden, come to my office immediately." The real battle had just begun. When I left the conference room, my legs felt heavy. My body moved, but my mind stayed behind, replaying every second of Darian's expression. His confidence cracked the moment I mentioned recordings. Not broken, just cracked. But a crack is all truth needs. I walked to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and locked the doors. The morning sun warmed the windshield, but the air inside felt cold. I placed the small drive on my lap and stared at it for a long moment. That tiny object held months of frustration, months of doubt, months of quiet battles that no one saw. I drove home in silence. When I stepped into my apartment, I felt the weight shift from fear to clarity. I set my laptop on the dining table, plugged in the drive, and opened the first file. The room stayed still as I listened. Darian's voice filled the speakers. "Move the deadline forward. Do not tell Alden." My chest tightened. I had forgotten how calm he sounded in that moment. He spoke as if he was adjusting furniture, not setting someone up to fail. Another clip. "If he asks questions, say you sent the update. Act surprised." I listened to the timestamps. Everything aligned. The emails, the warnings, the changed schedules. None of it was a mistake. It was a plan. I clicked on the next recording. This one was from a meeting he held with two team leads. "He is getting too comfortable," Darian said. "We need to check him." A pause. One of the leads asked, "He is doing good work, though. Why not just give him space to grow?" His answer chilled me. "People like him get ideas. If he shines too much, he becomes a threat. I need him predictable." Predictable. That was the word he used to describe me. Not talented, not useful. Predictable. Someone to control. I leaned back in my chair and covered my face with both hands. Anger rose inside me, but beneath the anger was something deeper. Sadness. The kind of sadness that comes when you realize someone you respected had been shaping your downfall while smiling at you. I opened the email archive next. Thread after thread showed his patterns. Instructions sent at odd hours. Requests forwarded to others but recorded as sent to me. Deadlines moved without notice. Meetings rescheduled without invitations. I saved everything into one folder titled Truth. Then I opened the final recording. It was from a one-on-one meeting. He thought he muted the call when he paused to speak to someone outside his office. He did not. "I will push the final warning next week," he said. "Once HR signs it, he is done." That was the moment my throat tightened. He had planned to end my job long before today. He just needed the right timing. I sat quietly for several minutes. I let the truth settle, not to break me, to strengthen me. After the silence, I organized the evidence. Recordings arranged by date, screenshots labeled with exact times, emails stored in chronological order. A clear timeline built itself on the screen, a story he could not rewrite. When I finished, I drafted a clean report for HR. At the bottom of it, I wrote one simple line. "Everything in this drive contradicts the claims against me." I sent the email. Seconds later, I got a reply from Ms. Wren. "Alden, please come in tomorrow morning. Bring all your documentation." Her tone was different this time. Firm, respectful, alert. I closed my laptop and exhaled slowly. For the first time in weeks, something inside me felt steady. But just as that steadiness settled, my phone rang. The caller ID displayed the director's name, the same person who sent the urgent message. I answered. "Alden," he said, "I reviewed the suspension request. Something about it feels wrong. I want you here first thing tomorrow. Bring every piece of evidence." He paused. His next sentence changed everything. "And Alden, do not speak to Darian again, not even by accident." The air around me went still. A warning like that did not come lightly. "Understood," Arnafwaniona said. "Good," he replied. "Tomorrow decides everything." The call ended. I sat there holding the phone to my ear long after the screen went dark. I realized the director was not just asking for evidence. He already suspected the truth, and tomorrow he wanted to hear it from me directly. The next morning, the world felt too quiet. I woke up before my alarm. My room looked different somehow, not in appearance, but in meaning. This was the day everything would be revealed, or broken, or both. I got dressed slowly. My hands were steady, but my mind replayed every detail from the past months. Every warning, every shifted deadline, every sharp comment that pushed me closer to a cliff I did not choose. At the office entrance, the receptionist did not greet me with the usual smile. She looked at me with concern. "They asked me to bring you straight to the director," she said. Her voice sounded softer than usual, softer than the morning air, softer than the truth waiting behind the door. I walked through the hallway with her. My footsteps felt louder than they should. When she opened the conference room door, the sight inside made my breath catch. The director was seated at the end of a long table. Two members of HR sat on one side, one person from legal, an IT specialist, and an empty chair waiting for me. Darian was not there. That alone told me this was serious. "Take a seat, Alden," the director said. I sat in the empty chair. The table held a printed stack of documents. My name was on the top. The director folded his hands and looked at me with a steady expression. "This meeting is confidential," he said. "We are here to review your termination request. We have concerns about the information that was submitted." He nodded toward me. "You may speak freely." I placed the small drive in the center of the table. "All the evidence is here," I said. HR exchanged glances. Legal leaned forward slightly. The director said, "We will begin with your recordings." I connected the drive to the laptop on the table. The IT specialist opened the folder I had labeled Truth. He clicked the first file. Darian's voice filled the room. "Move the deadline forward. Do not tell Alden." The director raised an eyebrow. HR leaned back slowly in their chairs. The second recording played. "If he asks questions, say you sent the update. Act surprised." The legal representative wrote something down. The third file revealed Darian talking to a team lead. "He is getting too comfortable. I need to check him." The room grew colder. I watched the expressions around me shift, not toward anger, toward clarity. They moved to the meeting recording where Darian forgot to mute his call. "I will push the final warning next week. Once HR signs it, he is done." The room went silent for a full 10 seconds. Then the director asked, "Is this your voice, Alden?" "Yes," I said. "And none of these clips were edited?" "No," I said. The IT specialist verified the metadata. He nodded. "No signs of tampering." The director closed his eyes for a moment. I could see a decision forming behind them. He spoke slowly. "Alden, what you brought today confirms serious misconduct from your manager." HR added, "This explains the inconsistencies in your warnings. They did not match your project records." Legal spoke next. "These recordings are admissible in internal investigations. The timestamps align with the altered files we reviewed last night." I felt the weight in my chest lift slightly. Not fully, just enough to breathe. The director turned to HR. "Where's Mr. Pike?" "We did not inform him of this meeting," she said. "Good," he replied. Then he looked at me again. "Alden, we will need to speak to him separately. But let me be clear. The evidence you provided has changed everything. His claims against you do not hold." I nodded. "Thank you," I said quietly. But the director was not finished. "There is one more thing," he said. "It found something late last night. A folder labeled Compliance Archive on Mr. Pike's device." The IT specialist clicked another file. A spreadsheet opened. Rows of names, dates, notes about how to manage employees he saw as threats. Then there it was. My name. A row highlighted in red. Beside it, removed by Q2, build record of unreliability, keep him out of senior roles. My stomach clenched. Every suspicion I had ever pushed aside stood fully exposed on the screen. The director read the line twice, then looked at me. "This is not just misconduct," he said. "This is intentional sabotage." My pulse hammered in my ears. Not from fear this time, from the weight of truth finally standing on solid ground. The director's voice grew firmer. "Alden, we are suspending him immediately. Legal will begin proceedings today." He paused. "We will need you present when we confront him. Not now, but soon." My breath caught again. "When?" I asked. He looked at HR. She nodded. "Tomorrow morning," he said. "We face him together." He leaned forward slightly. "Alden, be ready. Tomorrow the truth meets him face to face." I barely slept that night. My mind ran in circles around every detail from the investigation. The recordings, the altered files, the spreadsheet that listed my name like a threat he wanted removed. By sunrise, the sky outside my window looked pale and washed out. I watched the light grow on the walls of my apartment and tried to steady my breathing. Today would be the day Darian faced everything. Today, the lies would finally meet the truth. At the office, HR led me to another conference room. This one was smaller, more contained. A place for decisions, not discussion. A place where truths were weighed carefully. Inside sat the director, legal, HR, and the same IT specialist from the day before. He had a laptop open in front of him. The director nodded at me. Good, we can start now. He looked at the IT specialist. Show him what you found. The specialist tapped a few keys. The screen projected to the wall. A folder titled Personal Archive appeared. Mr. Pike tried to delete this, the specialist said. He did not know we recover everything from the server. Inside the folder were dozens of subfolders with vague names. Notes, drafts, screenshots, saved conversations. But one folder caught my eye. It was labeled Revisions, Confidential. The specialist clicked it. Inside were emails Darian never meant anyone to see. The first one opened with a subject line. Regarding Alden Royce. My breath hitched slightly. The email was addressed to another manager. It read, he is too ambitious for his own good. If we do not handle him soon, he will become a problem. I am building a record. Support the narrative when it reaches HR. The director let out a slow exhale. His fingers tapped lightly on the table. The specialist opened the next one. This one was worse. Subject line, plan for Q2. The body of the email said, shift deadlines earlier. Remove him from key meetings. Push the final warning by mid-April. HR will sign off once the pattern looks consistent. He will not fight it. He avoids conflict. Heat rose up my neck. My hands tightened in my lap. I kept my face calm, but inside something cracked open. Not fear, not confusion, recognition. He had studied me like a strategy. He thought my calm was weakness. He thought my gentleness made me easy to break. The specialist clicked another message. This one made the room fall silent. Subject line, backup plan. In it, Darian wrote, if he pushes back, we will say he lacks emotional stability. No one will question it. He is quiet. He keeps to himself. That story fits. The director closed his eyes and shook his head slowly. This is calculated, he said. This is not a misunderstanding. This is targeted sabotage. HR whispered something under her breath, stunned. Legal took steady notes. The specialist clicked a final item, a deleted voice memo. Darian's voice filled the room. Once he leaves, the team will fall back in line. I need people who know their ranks. I felt my jaw tighten. The room felt smaller, heavier, sharper. Every doubt I ever had about myself. Every moment I questioned my sanity. Every night I lay awake wondering if I imagined everything. It all settled into a clear truth. It was never my imagination. It was always a design. The director turned to me. Alden, do you understand the scale of what he did? I nodded. Yes, I said. I understand. He leaned forward. With this evidence, legal grounds are strong. His termination is no longer a question. He will face consequences. HR added, you will be reinstated immediately with full review of your record. I took a breath, a deep, steady breath that filled my lungs with something new. Something like freedom. The director sat back. We confront him tomorrow. He was placed on leave last night. He does not know what we found. The IT specialist cleared his throat. There is one more thing, he said. He opened a hidden system log. Timestamps were highlighted. These were the moments he accessed your account, he said. Every false edit, every altered timestamp, all from his device. I felt my chest tighten, not with fear, with clarity. The director closed the laptop. Tomorrow he gives us his explanation, he said. If he has one. I nodded. I will be there. The director looked at me with steady eyes and said, Alden, prepare yourself. Tomorrow will not be a simple conversation. Tomorrow ends everything. The next morning, the air inside the office felt different, heavier, slower. I could sense something tense lingering in the hallways. People glanced at me with quick, uncertain looks, as if they sensed a storm approaching, but did not know where it would hit. HR led me to the same conference room, the same table, the same empty chair at the end. But today, the air felt colder. The director sat at the head of the table, Legal sat beside him. The IT specialist waited near the screen. The door opened. Darian walked in. He looked tired, not physically, but in the way a person looks when the ground under them shifts without warning. His tie was crooked. His eyes were darker than usual. He paused when he saw me. Our eyes met for a second. He looked away. He sat down across from me, his hands clasped tightly on the table. He forced a calm expression, but I could see the tension in his jaw. The director spoke first. "Mr. Pike, thank you for coming in." Darian nodded slowly. "Of course." "This meeting concerns the termination request you filed," the director said. Darian straightened slightly. "Yes, the issues with Alden's performance." The director's face did not move. "Before we continue, we need to review new information." The IT specialist tapped the laptop. The first recording played. Darian's own voice filled the room. "Move the deadline forward. Do not tell Alden." Darian blinked. His lips parted, but no sound came out. The specialist played the second clip. "If he asks questions, say you sent the update. Act surprised." Darian looked at the screen, then at the director. "These are out of context," he said. His voice shook. The specialist opened the metadata. "These are raw files, no edits." The director's eyes did not leave Darian's face. Another clip played. "I will push the final warning next week. Once HR signs it, he is done." Darian swallowed hard. His hands tightened. Then the IT specialist opened the email folder. The subject lines glowed on the screen. "Regarding Alden Roy's plan for Q2 backup plan." The director read the lines aloud, word for word. Darian shook his head. "These were drafts," he said, "not real plans." Legal raised a hand. "Drafts still show intent," she said, "especially when they match your actions." Darian opened his mouth again, but the IT specialist clicked another tab. The spreadsheet, the one with my name highlighted in red. Beside it, "Removed by Q2, build record of unreliability." The room fell silent. I watched his face, not with anger, with clarity. He had built my downfall with the calm precision of a person who believed he would never be caught. The director leaned forward. "Mr. Pike, how do you explain this?" Darian's voice dropped to a whisper. "It was pressure. The team. I needed structure." The director shook his head. "This is not structure. This is manipulation." Darian looked at me for the first time since he walked in. His eyes held a mixture of guilt and disbelief, as if the evidence was unreal even to him. "Alden," he said, "you know I never meant harm." I held his gaze. "You meant every word in those recordings." He looked down. The director spoke again, his voice steady. "Mr. Pike, your actions show clear misconduct. You altered project timelines. You fabricated warnings. You attempted to force the termination of an employee without grounds. This breaches company policy and legal standards." Darian's breathing grew uneven. Legal added, "You placed the company at risk." The director placed a document on the table. "As of today, you are terminated." Darian stared at it. His hands trembled. "No," he whispered. "You cannot do this. I gave years to this place." "You built your years on lies," the director said. Security entered the room quietly. 2 officers in plain uniforms. They stood by the door, hands behind their backs. Darian looked around the room. His face drained of color. He searched for someone to defend him. No one spoke. He stood slowly. He closed his eyes for a moment. Then he walked toward the door without a word. Security followed him out. The door closed behind them. The room stayed silent. The director turned to me. "Alden," he said, "your record is cleared. You will be reinstated." I nodded. My body felt light and heavy at the same time. Then he said something that caught my breath. "We are not finished. There is one more matter to resolve. It concerns your future here." He pushed a sealed envelope across the table toward me. "Alden, open this. It is time you saw what comes next." The envelope in front of me looked simple. White paper, no markings, no logo. Just my name, written in neat handwriting. The room stayed quiet as I picked it up. My name felt strange on the surface, like the start of a chapter I had not expected. I opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a letter from the director. I unfolded it, and the room faded into the background as I read. "Alden, your conduct under pressure has shown integrity. We reviewed your project history. We reviewed your work over the past 3 years. You have consistently delivered. You have led quietly yet effectively. We believe you should not return to your old role. You deserve a fresh environment where your growth will not be restricted. We want to offer you a transfer to the Northbridge branch with a senior title. My heart pounded. I read the lines again. I read them slowly the second time. My mind struggled to accept the shift. The director watched me. You earned this, he said, not because of what happened with Mr. Pike, but because of who you were the entire time. I lowered the letter and looked at him. Why me? I asked. He leaned back slightly. Because you handled everything with restraint, he said. Most people would have reacted with anger. You responded with facts. You stayed calm. You stayed focused. That is leadership. The words hit me harder than the warnings ever did. For months, I had been painted as unreliable, as careless, as difficult. Now someone saw me clearly. HR placed a new contract on the table. Take your time to read it, she said. The offer stands. I picked up the contract. My name appeared at the top in bold letters. Senior Implementation Lead, Northbridge Branch. A title I never dared to imagine. A role I feared would be out of reach because of everything Darian had tried to bury me under. I exhaled slowly. Thank you, I said. The director nodded. You start in 2 weeks. Until then, you are on paid leave while everything settles. The meeting ended. People packed their files. The door opened. Everyone walked out. I stayed for a moment. Alone. Quiet. Still. I held the letter in my hands and felt something shift inside me. A slow movement. A soft release. Like a weight I had carried on my shoulders for a long time finally loosened its grip. I left the building and stepped outside. The air felt warmer. The sky looked clearer. Cars moved along the street, unaware that a part of my life had just been rewritten. As I walked toward the parking lot, I heard someone call my name. Alden. I turned. It was Alora, the co-worker who warned me earlier. She approached me with cautious steps. I heard what happened, she said. I am glad the truth came out. Thank you for telling me when you did, I replied. It helped more than you know. She nodded. He tried to do the same to others before you, she said. But no one had the proof. You did. I looked around the lot. People walked by. None of them knew the weight of this moment. I am leaving the branch, I said. Alora smiled softly. Good, she said. You deserve more than what he tried to make you. We parted ways. I reached my car and sat behind the wheel. For a few seconds, I just stared at the steering wheel, breathing slowly. I thought about everything that had happened. The unfair warnings, the deadlines, the lies, the fear, the recordings, the investigation, the confrontation. Then I thought about what the director said. You stayed calm. You stayed focused. That is leadership. The words settled inside me like pieces of a puzzle finally clicking into place. I started the engine. The quiet hum felt comforting. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I understood something important. I was no longer leaving because I was pushed out. I was leaving because I earned something better. But as I turned onto the main road, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from an unknown number. The message said, "You think this is over?" The message on my phone stopped me for a moment. "You think this is over?" No name, no context, just a sentence loaded with fear and anger. I pulled into an empty parking spot and stared at it. My first thought was that it came from Darian. My second thought was that he wanted a reaction. He wanted to drag me back into the darkness that swallowed him. I sat still for a long moment. Then I deleted the message. I did not reply. I did not screenshot it. I did not feed the fire he tried to spark. When people fall by their own hands, they sometimes reach for anyone close enough to pull down with them. I was done standing at the edge. I drove home with a clear mind. Later that evening, I stood by my window and watched the streetlight glow against the pavement. Cars passed slowly. A couple walked by holding hands. Life moved without caring about the battles happening inside office walls. My apartment felt quiet. Not heavy, not cold, just quiet. I sat at my table and opened the contract again. Senior Implementation Lead, Northbridge Branch. A role I earned through steady work. A future that had nothing to do with Darian's lies. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to breathe without expectation. I realized how much of myself I had lost trying to prove I was not the villain someone else painted me as. I realized how much energy I spent trying to stay small to avoid conflict. Silence can protect you for a season, but truth protects you for a lifetime. I remembered the first day Darian praised me, the way I thought his approval mattered, the way I shaped my days around earning his trust. I had given him too much power, not with action, but with permission. People like him grow only when others stay quiet. I stood up and walked into my small kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water and leaned against the counter. I thought about everything he did, the warnings, the emails, the altered deadlines, the attempts to break my confidence. Then I thought about what he could not destroy, my clarity, my patience, my belief in evidence, my willingness to stand for myself even when my voice shook. The more I thought about it, the clearer the truth became. He built his future on manipulation. I built mine on consistency. His lies collapsed because lies always demand more lies to survive. My truth stood because it needed nothing extra to hold its weight. A simple fact can outlast 100 stories. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. I stepped outside and felt the cool air brush against my face. The city was quiet. The streets were soft with early light. I walked toward my car with a calm heart. Today was the day I signed the contract. Today was the day I stepped into a new branch. Today was the day I left the old version of myself behind. As I drove, I realized the final lesson my journey had taught me. Strength is not loud. It does not shout. It does not demand attention. Strength is patient. Strength is factual. Strength stands even when it stands alone. I parked in front of the new office. The building looked bright in the morning sun. The glass reflected a clear sky. I took a slow breath and stepped out of the car. This time I did not enter with fear. I entered with clarity, with loyalty to myself, with a voice I would not silence again. Whatever came next, I would meet it with truth. Because truth does not always win quickly, but it always wins completely. And that was the lesson Darian never learned. What would you have done in my place? Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe for more betrayal stories. New stories are posted every week, and some truths are worth staying for.